Good evening, and welcome to the November 12th meeting of the Ames Community School District Board of Directors. Take a motion of approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Rosser, seconded by, was it Benkin? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Passes 7-0. Director Rosser, will you please read the mission statement?
The mission of the Ames Community Schools is to ensure that all learners develop the knowledge, skills, attitudes, values, and personal esteem necessary to grow in and shape a changing society.
Thank you. We will go ahead and move into the public hearing, which I will open for the whole grade sharing with United. And we have not had anyone sign up for the public hearing, so I will go ahead and close the public hearing. And for those that don't have an agenda in front of them, our action will be scheduled for January 14th in order to comply with Iowa Code of being a minimum of 30 days after the public hearing. I'll go ahead and read our statement on public comments during our discussion items in public forum. Residents of the district, students attending the district, parents or guardians of students attending the district, and district staff members may address the board about any topic relevant to the district, whether on the current agenda or not. Those who wish to speak must sign up at the beginning of the meeting. Speaker participation is limited to 3 minutes once per item. The views and opinions of citizens addressing the board do not necessarily reflect those of the board, district administration, or staff. Speakers are to remember that Iowa law prohibits the board from discussing specific employees, students, or their performance. Student speakers will state their name and school. Others will state their name and address. And our first item for discussion items is additional technology from Frontline for Human Resources Department. Lisa Nagus.
That's not what I wanted. There we go. Thank you very much for the opportunity to allow us to share some information regarding our proposal for very updated technology to be used in human resources. Before we go any further, I would like to formally introduce Amber Davis, our human resources specialist, who has quickly become a highly valued and very much needed part of our team. And she's going to share a little bit of the information with you as well. The purpose of the presentation is to provide you with information as you consider whether or not to approve entering into contract with Frontline Education Technology. Frontline is focused solely on K12 education, which does make it very unique in technology. We have a need for this because we are a very, very lean department in human resources, which is not at all unusual for K12 education. Particularly in Iowa and smaller districts, it is very much the focus to have as many resources placed in the schools, having the most direct impact with students as possible. And what that does is it tends to create very lean operations in the operational areas. So what we're going to do is share a little bit about what our focus has been, what we believe our focus should be, and how we can actually have an impact on not just our applicants, but our principals and our new employees as well. So I'd like to share that a little bit of that with you. Let me handle the technology piece here. Thank you. See, now you know why I need Amber. One of the many reasons why I need Amber. I'd like to share with you just a little bit of information that explains the status of the human resources industry just by taking a look at a comparison of how lean our operations are. SHRM, which is Society for Human Resources Management, is the professional organization that I and many HR professionals belong to. What they have done is done a lot of research, and what they came up with was what is typical employee to HR ratios. And for employers that have between 251 to 1,000 employees, which is us, what is average is to have 1.22 HR employees to every 100 employees. Okay, so we've got about 700 employees, including all our full-time, our part-time, co-curricular, coaching. That does not include our subs. So if we're looking at about 700 people that we recruit, hire, on board, what that would come to would be an equivalent of 9.1 full-time equivalencies in human resources. We just last week went up from 2 to officially 2.3. We've had Mary Saylor helping us for a couple of hours a week, and we've now got a commitment for 15 hours a week. Do keep in mind that some employers will have their payroll purposes and their benefits included, but even if you up that to 4.3, we are still less than the industry average. I thought, wow, that is pretty discrepant, so I wanted to check another source, and Bloomberg cited that what is typical in their research is 1.4 HR employees per 100 other employees, which comes to a ratio of about 10.5 HR employees. So just as setting the stage, we are very lean, and because of that, we need to make the most of technology at every step so that we can have the greatest impact out in the schools. I have been with the district for just under a year and a half, and what I found is that my initial focus really needed to be on reducing risk. This is not something that I've talked about a lot publicly, but these have been some of the focuses in the first year and a half. Most of these relate to federal law, things that we do not have flexibility about whether we implement them, how we implement them, how we communicate them, or the timeline that we use. The first area that I mentioned here is I-9 compliance. The I-9 is the form that every employer has their new employees complete that shows that they can legally work in the United States. A lot of very specific pieces to that. There was an incredible need to ensure that we are doing our I-9s in a compliant manner, because if there would be infractions that are found, the cost ranges for fines between $216 to over $2,000 per infraction. That would be per I-9 form that is not in compliance. We had a very significant need to focus on this. Okay. Also, Family and Medical Leave Act, another federal legislation that we are required to implement. It provides protected time off up to 12 weeks for employees who are full-time, who have been with us for at least a year, and who have worked at least 1,250 hours in the past year. Again, this is not flexible. There are certain things we must communicate. We must communicate to our employees in a very timely manner. There's two different phases of the process where we must notify them within 5 days. I was not able to locate exact data on how many requests there were before I arrived, between 2016 and 2017, but there were 2 approvals using the FMLA paperwork. One of them was actually erroneous. We found out last year as the employee wanted to know why she wasn't eligible that year, and it's because she was not initially eligible. Compare that to 72 requests over the next 12 months after I started. 72 requests, and 47 of those were approved. They were eligible. These are for people who have their own serious health conditions, have immediate family members with serious health conditions, are having a baby, adopting a baby, and also it can relate to certain military situations. That was not part of any of ours. But given that we've got roughly 500 full-time employees, that's about 10% of our employees who were eligible and took a protected leave under the Family Medical Leave Act, which is time-consuming and involves a lot of communications to ensure that they understand what their rights are. Another area that required a lot of focus is under the Americans with Disabilities Act, again, federal legislation, to ensure that we're providing reasonable accommodations to our employees that have disabilities. When I arrived, there were no documented plans. Going through it's called the interactive process, which is when you sit down with the employee and you learn what their requests are, and you talk through different options and figure out what can we do that is reasonable that enables an employee who has a disability to still perform the essential functions. When I arrived, as I said, there were none of these documented plans in place. Typically, since I've started, we've got at least 5 going at any given time, a different 5, and they are adjusted as we go. Unemployment claims, not real sure what the numbers were ahead of time, but since I started taking over the claims, Iowa Workforce Development has found for 100% of the protests that I submitted, and they found for one protest I did not make. So we're in a good place as far as handling our taxpayer money judiciously there with doing the research, submitting the documentation, and ensuring that if we are being assessed for unemployment claims that it is proper. Performance evaluations, our employees deserve to get regular feedback, to get meaningful feedback, and to take part in that process. What I found is that the previous year before I arrived, about 80% of our support staff members had not had an evaluation within the timeline that is prescribed, which is either 2 years for ongoing or within the first year for new employees. So some of them had not been evaluated for 10 to 12 years. So it wasn't just a lapse of a year, but a real significant lapse as far as getting feedback to our employees. In the first year that we implemented it, there's less than 30% overdue, and I think it's actually even less than that because I think there's a couple schools that didn't get them submitted to me, so I haven't seen them in person, but made a big lift just in that year. And then the background checks. We really place at the priority making sure that our students and our staff are safe. And we've got a board policy that speaks to volunteers being required to go through the background process. We are requiring that. Also that teachers are required to be fingerprinted upon hire. We are initiating that process, which has not been in place. And there is also, I think as of 2013, a requirement that every 5 years our non-initial teachers go through an updated background check process, which we are also initiating. So doing the research, finding out what needs to be done, and implementing these processes has taken a real significant period of time to get us to the place where I feel like we are much able to manage our risk. What we've had to do this first year and a half is we've just been scrambling. The focus is really on responsiveness rather than being strategic and being proactive and taking a look at data and listening to people and analyzing and making decisions and putting us in a place where we can bring forward the best, most diverse group of employees and take good care of them and keep them. I've tried really, really hard to be responsive to our employees, either the same day or the next day, as well as to our administrators, which is typically the same day or the same night. And I've listed a number of things that are just kind of the typical everyday. I am the first point of contact for our employees for virtually everything that has to do with human resources. Amber is the first point of contact for our applicants, for our people going through the new hire process, and those that are just getting started with the onboarding. So that kind of takes a look at how we are dividing up the work. One of the things that has taken a real significant period of time is conflict resolution, which can come forward very informally with 2 coworkers or an employee and a supervisor who are not having the same positive experience, or it can come forward in a very formal manner through our complaint process. I take my investigations very seriously, and I believe that we need to get to the root of the issue rather than making a single phone call and saying, well, make sure that doesn't happen again, or I didn't think that was really happening, but really finding out what are the experiences, what are the observations, and what facts do we have. And regardless of what the finding is, if it's found that there is a board violation or a violation of ethics or whatever we are looking at, there's usually still room for improvement, even if there isn't a founded outcome. And that is figuring out what training is needed, what support is needed. How can we still help people to have a better work experience? It's not just closing out the case and saying this was not founded. What can we learn from this, and what can we put into place to make us a better employer and to take better care of our employees going forward? Again, this is very time-consuming work, but it's also very rewarding. What you're seeing here is actually a card that as recently as last summer was used to keep track of employee data. I was hoping that this visual would give you a feel for the state of technology and human resources. it kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies. All of this information is and should be entered in Grant Wood. And some of it historically was. Grant Wood is our human resources information system. Some of it was not. Some of it was some years, some people, and not. So from my background in strategic human resources, we need to have this data to make decisions going forward. We need to pull reports. Because of the lack of confidence that we had that information through technology, these cards were getting completed on all of our employees as recently as last summer. It's not continuing. This is going to lead us into Amber just sharing briefly what the recruiting, hiring process looks like so that you can get a feel for the current state versus what we hope will be the future state.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity to join you all today. Just to kind of elaborate on this, the information is still being gathered, just not on a piece of cardboard like it was before. It's in the system where it belongs. So just to give you an idea of what our new hires and candidates go through and how the whole process works for posting a job and having a new person start, I want to just give you a few bullets of how the process goes. If an administrator has a need to hire someone, they fill out a Google form, which is like a survey that's through our Google system that everyone is connected to. They fill out a Google form. It feeds the information into a Google Sheet, which is a spreadsheet. It has 25 columns of criteria that they want to include in their job posting. So I get an email that says you have a new addition to your Google Sheet, and I have to take those 25 columns and create a job ad out of them. So in a lot of cases, we already have an ad created and I can copy paste. Then it's a matter of updating it to match what is needed for this particular role. So copy paste, there's a lot of copy paste happening here. Once I copy paste together that ad, I put it into Talent Ed where it gets posted up on our website, on Indeed, and on Teach Iowa. So if we wanted to go anywhere else for any other applicants or candidates to see, it would cost extra, and we have to actually hope that the Teach Iowa ad is effective because they can't currently fill it out through Teach Iowa. They'll have to follow a link to our page to fill out an application, whereas most districts, they can fill it all out right there on Teach Iowa, if that makes sense. We don't have that access right now. Once I get that posted and hope that we have enough candidates, the administrators, they sift through all of the applicants. They choose who they find most appropriate, and they create another Google document, which is just a document called a personnel change form, which is a lot of copy pasting again. So sometimes all of the information is there, sometimes it's not, sometimes there's extra information that's not needed. It's very fun times over here. I get the Google document and I go into Talent Ed to find the applicant that they've included on their Google document. I find their email address, copy, paste into a new email, and I send them a welcome email that says, congratulations on your job, here's what you need to do. It includes a background check link. It includes a list of all the paperwork they need to fill out, and I have to wait for their response as to what date they choose to come in for paperwork. They have a choice in that email. I wait for their response. Once they respond, they come in. We verify that they have all of their documents complete, all of their identification, everything needed is taken there in that meeting. They also meet with payroll at that time to do their payroll documents. Everything's on paper. We've got nice stacks of paper in their folders. And I email the administrator once their paperwork is done to let them know the person is ready to get started and to please reply with a start date when they want them to come in. After that, it's kind of like off to the races for this new hire. They have to get their badge made at the facilities office, which is in a different location. So before they leave my office, I like to make sure they have that information as to where to go to have their badge. And it's just, hopefully they contact us if they have more questions. Hopefully the administrators and secretaries are helping them appropriately after that point.
I hope this is illustrated that it is a cumbersome, inefficient process. There are a lot of different hands, a lot of people that need to communicate with each other to keep things going as quickly as possible. It is time consuming for administrators, it is repetitive, it is prone to error, and I don't think it provides a very good experience for the people that we want to join our organization. So for that reason, we are believing that we need to go to something that is a lot more strategic. And better technology is the way to get there. Better technology enables us to pull reports, to look at where are we getting our best applicants, where are we spending money that is bringing in the type of applicants that we want, that we can run reports to see what are our turnover rates, why are people leaving, is it by certain buildings, is it by certain positions, what is the rationale. Having appropriate technology such as frontline education would enable us to do that. It would also make a big difference in our principals who do the bulk of the hiring as far as the screening processes go. You might be wondering, why now? Why is this the time that we are proposing this? We've been waiting for about a year to see what Department of Education did regarding Teach Iowa. They were looking at other platforms. They use Frontline. All the other schools who use Frontline have this direct feed for their applicants. We are one of the few schools that does not use Frontline, so in order to apply for us, they have to do a separate application. So you know that we are losing applications because of that. But if they were going to change vendors, we didn't want to necessarily go with Frontline right away, so we've been putting that off. Also, we've got really low unemployment. Story County has one of the lowest rates of unemployment in the nation. We no longer have tons of really great applicants for our positions. We need to have time to go out and find them. And right now with the scramble, we have time to process them. We don't have time to go out and find them. Particularly in hard to fill, teacher shortage, we're having a heck of a time right now. Did not have very many applications for a couple special education positions, as well as ESL that came open in November. If we go with Frontline, we have access to a database of about 10,000 teachers, including lots of information that would help us target not only who is certified, but who maybe attended institutions in Iowa that might be interested in moving back or interested in moving to Iowa. So we can do a lot more sourcing in a very convenient manner, and I think that would also serve to improve our diversity, that we're not just spending our efforts looking in our backyard where people look much more like me than look like bringing the diversity that our student body has that we want to represent. Also, another reason about why now, our new employees deserve better, our principals deserve better, our new applicants who are going through the process deserve a better experience. You know, when Jenny came to us, she came with the statement about your journey matters. We're not providing a very good journey for a lot of people because of the manual, error-prone way that we've been handling some of the human resources functions. In the interest of time, I am not going to hit on a couple of links that we've got here. I would like to share the cost with you for the two pieces that we are proposing. One is Frontline Central, which is the records management component that enables almost everything we do, rather than the stacks of paper, to be done electronically, including electronic signatures, contracts, training, and all those sorts of things. So rather than Amber keeping track of all these folders with check marks and who's missing what, everything is done that way. And our new hires complete that paperwork electronically ahead of time. So when they come in, we can spend our time helping them to feel valued and to learn about what it's like working for the school district, rather than having it being a paperwork part. So that would change that considerably. The recruiting and hiring is the posting process, the selection process. There is also a teacher assessment. It's called Teacher Fit that a lot of schools in Iowa uses. That is reliable, valid, and has been proven to be a wonderful source as far as bringing in applicants that are much more diverse than perhaps those that we would initially screen, not having the idea of increasing the diversity, of having the knowledge that we would need. So you might be wondering, why Frontline? The cost is not insignificant. There are a couple of reasons why I'm recommending Frontline over others. One is that we already use Frontline products. We use the Frontline Absence Management, and formerly called ASAP, some people still call that ASAP, as well as the time and attendance. And so it's integrated with those. The information, the data will flow. It won't be re-entering things 3, 4, 5 times. It also miraculously integrates with Grant Wood technology, which is what we use as our basic HRIS. Also with Frontline, it keeps the connection with teachiowa.gov, so we're not losing the applicants. And Frontline technology specializes in K12. That's what they do. It is designed for K12. Their retention rate spoke very loudly to me. It's 97%, and out of, they calculated 300 some school districts, all but 11 use some sort of Frontline platform, one of their programs. So those are some of the reasons why I am recommending Frontline over alternatives. what might be considered a competitor, as we are currently using Teach Iowa. Talent Ed, excuse me. We're using Talent Ed in a very minimal capacity. It's really more just a holding tank for our applications. It is significantly less expensive, but there are many, many pieces that we need in order to better serve the district that our current system does not have, and does not have that available. So from there, I will open it up to any questions or comments that you have.
Are we currently paying the $45.56 then?
We are. That is an annual cost, and miraculously, I believe that contract expires in December. So we would not be looking at an overlap or paying for a lot of additional months.
I want to thank both of you for a very thorough presentation. I'm like, I don't have any questions to ask, but of course, I do have a question to ask. So, but thank you. I really appreciate that you researched this and really provided a rationale for why we need and why we want this. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. I noticed that the cost is $27,500. The funds, it comes out of PEPL, and the annual cost is $20,000. So that will be $20,000 every year. Is there a time limit on the contract, or is it just indefinite?
I honestly don't know the answer to that question. I will be happy to contact, Kareem is our contact, and he's typically responsive. By the time this meeting ends, I will probably have a response for you.
And I thank you. I also see there's an initial setup of $7,500. What is that service?
That helps us get our information in. They have a lot of templates that we can use, that we can modify, or that we can completely put in all of our own information. Everything from job applications to the actual job descriptions, applications, all of that information. It also helps with all the technology setup, getting everything to feed and to integrate, and will support training our staff.
Thank you.
Can you describe or explain the undiscounted and the discounted amount? Why is that, and what is it?
I don't know exactly why. I think that they believe that schools get better results when they get several components of the package. And for that reason, it's actually less expensive to get more of the components than getting the components separately, because they work so well together and the schools have a better experience.
Yeah, so it's discounted because you're getting multiple parts. Okay. And then you mentioned something about badges and sending somebody out to another location to have a badge made. Why? So explain that to me.
This badge that allows me to scan into the building that I work in, everyone, our employees needs this except for co-curricular. I don't think they need it, like strict coaches. They make these at the facilities office. We don't make them here. Okay. That's where they get their keys and everything from. So,
okay. Yeah, it would make logical sense to me, since you're the HR folks, that is it a machine or something, or?
Yeah, it's a machine. I would agree.
We'll talk about that later, but it does make sense that should be here. So we'll talk about that later.
I get it. It lends to not providing a very good experience to our new employees. We have to send them off to another site.
I would gladly drive them over here.
Well,
enter data and flip the papers.
Unless our purpose is for them to get a tour of the community while they're, now that they're new.
We're going to need more staff for that.
Okay.
I do want to point out that we can't really quantify the amount of time that you would save with like a dollar amount versus what you're doing now, as well as the human error, which, it happens. So I just wanted to point that out, because while you do have a dollar amount here, there's a lot of time that you would save as well.
I think that there would definitely be time that would be saved, and it's time that we could spend doing things that are much more meaningful, that are really going to support our schools better, rather than rearranging paperwork.
You've got first off, thank you, very thorough. I think that's where you're not getting a lot of questions. Very helpful information, and you sharing our hiring process was helpful for us to hear, Amber, how laborious it is. So thank you for sharing, and thank you for your work on it. The screen you have up right now, the frontline versus competitor, I heard you talk about Talent Ed. Are there any other, I'm not in the HR world, so are there any other competitors we should be looking at, or is it a very slim picking in terms of those that work well with Teach Iowa and Grantwood and so forth?
That's a really good question, because in most areas there's more than two options. In K-12 in Iowa, those are the two most heavily used, and I believe it's because of the Teach Iowa linking with Frontline. In previous schools that I've worked at, we did not use either of those. We did not use anything that was set up for K-12, and it was a monster because of all the unique things we do in K-12 that are not typical out in the private sector. But the vast majority of schools, because of the linkage to Grant Wood and to Teach Iowa, are use Frontline, with some also using the Talent Ed.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Is there anything you want to add to the presentation?
No, I think it was very thorough.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
there's not a lot I could add to that.
Great. Well, thank you very much for bringing the information to us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for letting us share.
Are there any comments from the public on the Frontline presentation from our HR staff? Seeing none, we will go ahead and move on to the next discussion item, which is board committee updates. I believe, so we have one from facilities, and then I also want to thank Kim because she did put in, I think she filled in as many committee meeting times as she could in this document. So really appreciate you pulling that together. So just for the public's knowledge, you can see when some of the upcoming meetings are scheduled for some of our other board committees. Does anyone want to provide a report on the work they're doing in their committees?
I guess it's just one little update from facilities. We had a good discussion on community use of our facilities. This has always been a struggle, I think, within our district because we do have public buildings that are provided by the taxpayers, and so we want to have use of those by community members, but we have to always look at cost recovery. And so the board, a couple years ago, I think, put together a proposal for us to consider. I think that was maybe a little overzealous as far as the amount that we're charging. So it's just trying to figure out a balance of using our facilities, but then also making sure we're covering our costs. So this will be an ongoing discussion that the board will have input on to figure out where we want to kind of end. But to Jerry's point, I think we need to have some type of policy to help provide guidance. But again, some flexibility could be needed. So that'll definitely be coming back later on.
I appreciate you addressing that. I've had 2 people from the public contact me about that within the past 2 days, so it is very much, people are aware of us discussing it, so thank you for taking that on. And Jerry, thank you for your continued work on that. I know that has lingered with us. So, any other comments from board committees? Seeing none, we will open it to public comments on the board committee updates. Seeing none, we will go ahead, public forum. We did not have anyone sign up, so we will go ahead and move on to consent items. I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval of consent.
Second. Moved by Deardorff, seconded by Beerbaum.
Minutes from the meeting held October 29th, personnel report, open enrollment requests, contract for efficiency study of the central office. Just a reminder on that one, this is what we've discussed this year, earlier this year in doing that alignment at the district level and checking for the most efficiency possible with that. Policies for approval. Oh, I'm so sorry. I went right on to the action items because I saw Paul's here and we're running late.
All right, it's been moved by
Thank you.
Moved by Deardorff, seconded by Beerbaum. All those in favor indicated by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Passes 7-0. And our first action item, we have policies for approval.
I move the board approve the policies as presented.
Second.
Moved by Beerbaum, seconded by Deardorff. Discussion.
Just have a question of clarification more so. It said that this was sent out and the changes were in bold. And in the PDF that was sent out, It wasn't real clear what was bold. So to clarify, in the first one for the meeting notice, the change in bolded words would be in the second sentence and would be following district offices and on the district website for at least 4 days. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, and that's the only change in meeting notice?
Say that again?
And that's the only bolded change in meeting notice?
Yes.
Okay, okay. And then I saw no, well, I'll take that back. In the last,
The last part of that first paragraph, yeah, the on the
is that the only
district
change?
website part. Yeah. I
So
believe
so what specifically is the change?
And on the district website. That was that one about how we didn't want it just posted on the bulletin board, but also on the website.
Correct, okay, because on mine, it doesn't look bold at all.
And then the third paragraph, there's a line through for discussion.
Yeah, I saw
As
that.
any board member. And these are just for the clarification for everyone. These are the two policies that we had discussed. They were part of discussion items 2 meetings ago brought forth by the policy committee, and we wanted to do a correction on them to make sure that we were clear, and because these were the changes that we had discussed at that meeting 2 meetings ago.
Great, great.
Yep.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that
Yep,
those,
clarifying what it looked like.
that's what they were, and I think this is going to be great in bringing a lot of good transparency for a lot of people. They can go to the website, be assured that for meetings that the information that they are looking for is going to be there.
Any other discussion?
Thank you for including that. I believe I brought it up, so I really appreciate it.
It's moved by Beerbaum, seconded by Deerdorf. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Passes 7-0. Item 11, request to SBRC.
I move to approve the request to this, I should have put my glasses on. I move to approve the request to the School Budget Review Committee for modified allowable growth for increasing enrollment of $590,689.60 and limited English proficiency instruction beyond 5 years in the amount of $52,521.70.
Second.
Moved by Bankin, seconded by Rosser. Chris, do you want to give just a quick snippet of what we are voting on here for the public?
So each year, there are certain things that we are required, that will cause the district to spend money before we actually get the funds. Increased enrollment is one of those. So our enrollment increased as of the October 1st count. So we hired several new teachers. We will not get that money till the 1920 school year. But with money comes spending authority. So we can go back and the main thing is that we don't want to get into a negative spending authority. So they say, okay, we'll go ahead and give you the spending authority now. You can recapture that with cash reserve during the budget, and then you'll get the ongoing revenue in the next budget. So it's basically making sure we're held harmless on spending authority for increased costs associated with increasing enrollment. And then the formula for ELL, that, or limited English proficiency, they call it a number of different things, is based on 5 years of instruction. But if we have students that go beyond that need LEP instruction, we can again get spending authority that we can recoup with cash reserve. We don't ever get new revenue from the state on that, but it allows us to go back and recoup that in spending authority and funds.
Thank you for providing that. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Passes 7-0. Any items from the board?
I have 2 items. The policy committee met today, and I wanted to say a special thank you to Superintendent Reisner for working so hard to help the district bring its policies into alignment with state level expectations, but also just a heads up to the board, so when you have the opportunity to review the policies that are going to come to the board next session, that I was particularly struck that the policies that Superintendent Reisner is encouraging us to adopt based on the IASB policies are really what I would refer to as revolutionary. I thought they really changed the way we function as a district. They demand and require collaboration and listening to other voices and hearing other perspectives and bringing other people to the table. And I just really appreciated that Superintendent Reisner is really driving that as the expectation of her administration. So I want to thank you, and I want to encourage the board before we sit down the next time to really sit down and look at the policies from that perspective, particularly starting at the 300 level. I was really impressed by them. I also wanted to acknowledge the PTO at Sawyer for actually all the PTOs and the PTA in the districts and the booster clubs and what they do to help our schools really operate. I wanted to show off my nice t-shirt that Sawyer Choose Kind for Sawyer Elementary. The PTO did an amazing job of providing free t-shirts to all of the students, and also providing them for sale to parents as another way to raise money so that you don't have to buy wrapping paper or butter braids or whatever it is. So, and I am always happy to show off my school spirit. So thank you.
Thank you for that.
Any other updates from the board? I know some of us will be heading to the IASB conference later this week, and I know that it is a big commitment for us to take away the day or more than one day, but it is always a great opportunity to learn together to figure out how we do our job better. I also want to say thanks to the district for supporting some of us going to the Building Inclusive Organization Symposium about a week and a half ago. It was great learning along staff and other board members, and the two of us got to sit next to one another during some of the sessions, but really great. And I'm really looking forward to how we apply all of the learning that came from that. And I'd say a huge thanks to the community, because the conference room in which we were in was full from representatives from organizations across our community. So I really appreciate that the level of commitment that this community is placing in our building ourselves to be a better inclusive community.
Yeah, thank you to Jeanette and Monique for being there. It was well done for sure by the community.
One comment I'd make too about the upcoming convention this week, the Iowa Association of School Boards. I was also happy to see that Ames High School teachers and Director Colton are going to be presenting there about the Blue STEM Institute. So I think that's something we can be proud of, and it's getting recognized in the state. So. Good.
Items from the superintendent.
I just wanted to first share with you that we, a team of us, it was Sue Lawler and Anthony Jones, Steve Flynn, and myself, Amy, also Amy Lane, I think I got everybody, this past week went to and were certified in IDI, which is an intercultural inventory. And so it's targeted at helping organizations do this assessment to build cultural competencies. And so it was, I think they would agree, it was very demanding and stretches your thoughts in different ways, but it was excellent. And I'm excited that our district really, I think, is leading this in the state in terms of the number of people that we would have in our district who are certified currently. And so we'll be talking over the next few months about what this looks like long-term for our district and how we roll it out down the road. Also, just a quick, I wanted to let the board know, last meeting, if you remember, we had the discussion about being a little bit over budget on our high school building, and Spence and I are working in conjunction with Jerry with OPN to continue, and Story, to continue to really look for efficiencies in how we carve that out without compromising the program that we want to offer our students at the high school. So it's this balancing act. And again, you know, we'll just consider, we'll keep looking for ways to bring that cost down, but yet also not compromise and look for additional sources if needed. So just a quick update on that.
Anything from the board planning calendar you want to highlight?
I don't think so. I was just quickly thinking, do we have a work session next time? Can't remember.
Is it the elementary numbers?
It might be elementary numbers. I cannot remember. I don't see it on there, so we might have, do you all remember?
I feel like
I have 6:30.
Okay, then we probably don't have one. Okay, so it's December.
all right, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
I second.
Moved by Perez, seconded by Beerbaum. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Passes 7-0. Thank you.